So the question was, what do we value as a community, right? So I went back 103 years actually, and looked at a book that was written about Madison. It was Madison's essentially first pitch deck about this community. And there's a line in there that says, in order to grow the business of a community, must first grow the humanity of a community. And I think that is something that if you look at other cities and other communities, that sense of empathy, that sense of humanity, that sense of understanding the position and the place other people in has been something that has been constant throughout the century. Now, we haven't always executed to perfection. In fact, we probably fell down in the last, I would say, 60-some years in living up to that promise. But I think that is what we value. We value the connectivity of the humanity of this community. 2.5 years ago when I took over this organization, so the chamber here in Madison, we are one of the largest chambers in the state. So we're large nationwide, one of the largest in the country. We have 1,300 members, and we span the entire county, and we actually fall outside of the county. We represent half of the workforce. And we've been around for over 100 years. But when I took over, it was with the purpose of sort of challenging the status quo. That what I've learned over the last couple of years of researching what Madison has been and where it's going is that the values of 1913, when that book was written, when the chamber was founded, when the progressive era was taking over, that Madison had a sense of itself as a place of opportunity, as a place of inclusion, although there it meant let the Irish in. But it's the same sentiment. Right? It's just the demographics have changed. And also understanding who we were and what we wanted as a business community. And all too often in some communities, and sometimes in this community, the business community is vilified. And the reality of that is a significant amount of the tax base, significant amount of the philanthropic giving comes from the business community. And so we are blessed with a business community that cares, that wants to be involved. Now, I'm not here to be a defender of all things business, but to say sometimes we don't know our place. And sometimes we try to stay out of people's way. And at times we have been status quo. I would say that 1913 Madison looked much different than 1948 Madison. If you think 1948 Madison had a picture of a beautiful white woman and a beautiful white baby on the front cover of Life magazine, and it said, Madison, the good life. And we believed it. Oscar Mayer had 5,000 employees. The university was growing by leaps and bounds because of the GI Bill. And everybody decided at that moment, let's just keep it this way. It's perfect. This lily white community is exactly what we want. And the business community reflected that. The population reflected that. The leadership reflected that. And therefore the chamber reflected that. But demographics didn't listen. Right? That the country changed, the state changed, the city changed, and we didn't necessarily change with it. And so over the last 2.5 years, it's about changing the viewpoint of not just the community's view of what a chamber of commerce is and the role we play, but also understanding what the community needs. So when I think about what we value, and I hear words like inclusion and equity and equality, many of those words don't resonate to the business community. There's sort of a misunderstanding of what they mean, but the word equity does. And so what I think about what we value is equality means equal, means everything's fair. Inclusion, Annette gave a great description, so I won't repeat her description, but inclusion has a different connotation. Equity in the business community means ownership. So if I say I have equity in a company, it means I own a piece of that company. That's how we look at equity. It's how I want us to look at equity, is that it's about owning a piece of the table. And the surest way to get people to believe in the community and to be involved in the community and take ownership in the community is to let them be owners. And so when we think about entrepreneurship, we think about ladders and pathways about where we go. We're in the business of the demand side of talent. So you think about the schools create a supply side of talent. So their job, with our help and all of our inclusion in that, is to produce the talent that we need to keep business producing, which pays taxes and employs people, creates community wealth. We're in the business of trying to make a demand for that. So as we think about what that demand looks like, we need to make sure that, as I heard recently from the head of Japan's national bank, I was in a small group discussion. So Japan is the opposite of America. It is the most sort of homogenized nation you could possibly imagine. It is male and it is ethnically undiverse. And they said, for us to succeed in the future, we must bring women and we must bring entrepreneurs into our economy. So for them, that's a big deal. Same thing applies to us, but beyond just gender, we need to be thinking about ethnicity and race and many other sort of social profiles that are going to be important for us. We cannot succeed as a community or as a state or as a nation if the place where you're born predetermines where you end up.